There is nothing more central to the Christian religion than the death and resurrection of Jesus. When attempting to convert others, Christians often put a lot of emphasis on the sacrifice and the suffering he went through to supposedly save humanity, or part of humanity, from hell. He died for you, they say, sacrificed his life so you wouldn't have to go to hell. And this is where I call bullshit. There are 3 problems with the idea of the sacrifice of Jesus. First, hell is a problem, hypothetically, only because of the Christian God. He is the one sending people to hell in the first place. Why should anyone find it compassionate on his part that he died to save humanity from himself? Wouldn't it have been simpler and much more compassionate if he had simply never created hell in the first place? So why should we be grateful to him for saving us from a problem he created? The second issue is that his death was not the ultimate sacrifice that Christians make it out to be. Because really, in the end, what did he actually give up? Not his life. He was only dead for 3 days. Not his divinity or the love and forgiveness of God the Father. He ascended back into heaven and sits at the Father's right hand. His so-called sacrifice was a temporary one. Yes, he suffered, but so do billions of other people on this planet, and we're not heralding their suffering as some sort of ultimate sacrifice. Look at it this way. An atheist who dies to save even just one person dies a true sacrifice, and a more meaningful one, because he or she is giving something up, knowing that death is final. Jesus was quite aware, according to the Gospels, that he would rise again, and not just rise, but be accepted right back into heaven. Which brings me to the third problem. How did the death of Jesus pay the price of sin? For humans, their sinful nature earns them an eternity in hell. For Jesus, who supposedly took on the sins of the entire world, the price was simply 3 days of being dead. Logically, if Jesus truly paid the price for sin, he should have had to endure the price that is actually exacted from humans. In other words, Jesus should be burning in hell. But according to the Bible, he's not. Instead, he's in heaven. How did he get there? Christians often try to justify the idea of a loving God sending people to hell by claiming that God cannot tolerate the presence of sin. Well, okay, sure, let's ignore the contradictions of omnipotence and omnipresence for now and go with that. So, God cannot be in the presence of sin, yeah? And Jesus took all the sins of the world onto himself, right? Literally became sin and was forsaken by his Father after being tainted with this sin. How could God have accepted him back? How is he forgiven when God cannot tolerate sin? And Jesus took every sin upon himself. And since he apparently was forgiven, why can't God extend the same mercy to all of humanity, despite their so-called sins? Because if Jesus paid the price of sin, and the price was simply being dead for 3 days while not being in the presence of an omnipresent God, who he also happens to be, and then after those 3 days all was fine and back to normal, why did anyone need Jesus to begin with?